Hey guys, so today we are going to be talking about everything you need to have in your birth kit if you are going to have baby goats. So this is definitely one of my very favorite topics to talk about. I have a background as a midwife assistant and a labor coach, so I have always loved the miracle of birth and sweet little babies. And as far as on our homestead, I truly have to say this is one of my very favorite parts each year. There is just nothing greater than seeing new life enter the world and being a part of it. And I just remember our first year or two, I was so nervous about what I needed to have and how to be prepared and what I was gonna do. And thankfully, if you have good mama goats, they are going to do an excellent job of delivering and taking care of those babies, and hopefully you don't have to even intervene much. But it is good to be prepared and to know what you need to have on hand in case you do. And with the kind of goats that we raise, we have pygmy and Nigerian dwarf, so their babies are so tiny, and it is definitely important to be prepared and just be ready, because sometimes we do have to help those babies get warm after they're born or help them nurse, those kind of things. So today we are going to be talking about what you really need to have in your birth kit. So I remember that very first year, I took a printable from online and I bought stuff that I still have never used. And so I want to save you guys from spending more money than you have to, and hopefully getting the things in your birth kit that you really need to have, and that will be beneficial as you start to welcome those new little baby goats into your family and into your farm. Okay, so we're gonna dive right into what we have in our birth kit. So we have also created a printable for you, which is linked below. That way you kind of have a checklist that you can go through and know what to add. So a lot of these things can be purchased on Amazon, even at your local Walmart. So yeah, hopefully you're able to find these items easily. I'm just gonna go down through and explain what some of them are and what their purposes are. So first of all, you will want to have some gloves if you are messing with mama and babies, and especially if you have to assist in any way, the gloves are really, really important. So it also just helps to keep you cleaned up if you're touching babies and mamas and all of that stuff that is involved with birth. So a box of gloves is super, super helpful. Next, we're going to look at this idea. So you can either use BALER twine or have some dental floss in your kit, but this is really important if you ever have to tie a baby's umbilical cord. And we've had to do this a few times where sometimes their cord will start bleeding, or sometimes mom is licking it and it will start to bleed. And so it's really important to get that umbilical cord tied off. And I just do a double or triple knot up high on the umbilical cord. And so having that BALER twine, which is great because you can grab it right in your barn, or even some dental floss, and then I just keep a pair of scissors in my kit so that I have it with me if I need it. Speaking of umbilical cords, another thing that is really great to have on hand is some iodine. So as soon as those babies are born, this is one of our priorities, is to spray. You can also dip their umbilical cords. This will just help to cleanse and make sure that the baby isn't picking up any bacteria. And this is something that we try to do as soon as possible after they hit the ground. Another thing that we keep on hand for right after the babies are born is some kind of a bulb syringe. So sometimes, even as with our babies, right after birth, depending on what they may have taken in, you may need to help clear their airways. So once our baby goats hit the ground, our first priority is to make sure that their airways are opened, and sometimes just wiping their mouth with a paper towel or the corner of a towel will work. But if you need to intervene more, then having a bulb syringe is really important, because you can suction out a little bit and just make sure things are clear, and that's what's going to make a huge difference for them with their nursing. So the next thing that we have is a thermometer. So a little tip with you when those babies hit the ground. This is a concept that a friend taught us when we were starting with goats, and I will share it with you. So a warm goat is a goat that's going to drink milk. So body temperature is huge for baby goats. And like I said, we raise a miniature breed, the Nigerian dwarf and the pygmy, so they are super tiny. And if it is cold outside, you need to make sure those babies are warm, because if their body temperature is too low, that is going to interfere with their sucking reflex, and it's not going to kick in and they're not going to nurse. So having a thermometer on hand in case you need to check the baby's temperature is really important. And there has been a few times where we have had a baby that just would not drink, and we knew something was going on, and as soon as I checked their temperature, it was really low. And so at that point, you definitely have to intervene and get that baby warm. So I'm going to show you a couple ways that we work to keep our babies warm, which is super important. So a couple tips for you with keeping those babies warm, which I just mentioned is super important. So these are a few things that you will want to have on hand. So first of all, a heat lamp. So we keep this in the stall and have it on, especially if it is a super chilly night or even day. So typically our babies are born the end of March or April, and where we live in Pennsylvania, it is definitely still chilly. And like I said, they're very tiny. So that heat lamp is great because it's a source of heat that they can stay under and stay warm. Some people also use a heat barrel, and that's something that you can easily look up how to make and is a great option you can also put in the stall. Also for cleaning the babies off, so a wet baby is going to have trouble being warm, and we try to let mama clean them off as much as possible. But if it is super cold and that baby is wet and shivering, then sometimes you've got to help with that too. So a friend taught us that paper towels are actually really great, and I love these just because they're not slippery. And sometimes like a t-shirt, we've tried an old t-shirt or even certain materials on the towel, I feel like it still is hard to really rub things off and get them dry. So I keep paper towels on hand. I also love the paper towels if I'm cleaning out their mouth. It just seems to work a little bit better. And then we also keep some old bath towels. So again, you have to wash these if you're using them, where the paper towels you can just dispose of. But the bath towel is great because once they're dried off a little bit, you can wrap them up and not just dry them off, but keep them warm. And then the last idea, and this is super simple little homemade tip, but having some kind of a rice sock. So this is nothing special. We keep this right in the barn. It's an old sock and it is just filled with rice. This works really well with the tiny goats because we can warm this up, put it next to their body, and then wrap them in a towel. And what I have found is this is a way to bring a heat source out to the barn. So we've had some births in the past where we have had to take a baby inside when it is really cold and they are really struggling, but I've also learned there's huge benefits to keeping them close to mom. And so I love this option because I can send a child up to the house, they can warm this up, we can bring it down, put it next to baby, keep them wrapped in a towel, and it will help to keep them warm right there in the barn. So that's something you can make up really easy. 2 or 3 cups of rice in an old sock and you'll have a great heat source. And then the last thing that we have found super helpful is to have a hair dryer, if at all possible, close by. So we just have a hair dryer that we can plug in right there in the barn, and this is a great way to get your baby warm and dry really quickly. I'll take a towel and kind of rub them dry and then warm them up. And sometimes if it's a cold night, I'll have to do that a couple times, but it's a great thing to have right there close on hand. We just purchased a cheap one that we keep in the barn, but you can always just grab yours from the house if it's needed also. So hopefully you will not have to intervene with feeding your little baby, but just in case you do, here is a couple things that you'll want to have on hand. So we have found with a lot of persistence, many times we can go ahead and get those little kids to nurse. Sometimes it does take a little bit of help and a little bit of persistence. There's some of them that will test your patience a little bit, but if you keep working with them, keep putting them under mama, hold them under there and kind of show them what to do, they'll catch on. We also have those crazy little babies that just jump right up and are nursing on their own within 15 or 20 minutes, and that's awesome too. But we also have had those ones that have struggled a little bit, and here's a couple things that is good to have on hand in case you do have to intervene. And this is kind of like different levels, which hopefully you don't have to go all the way, but a couple quick little ideas you can do. So the first one is just to have an empty syringe on hand if you need need to get a little bit of milk in them to kind of jumpstart them. So what I have found is that sometimes, again, if a baby isn't warm, like we mentioned earlier, their sucking reflex is not going to kick in and they're not going to drink. But I have found that a little bit of milk will sometimes be enough to get that system jump started and be enough. So this birthing season, we had a little boy, which is a great example to tell you guys about, because I worked with him for an hour and a half, and I was so determined that I was not going to intervene in any way. And after an hour and a half of trying, I would put him under mom. I was squirting the milk right into his mouth, and he was sucking on my finger, but 2 and 2 was just not going together. And so finally I said to my husband, okay, it's been 2 hours. We need to get a little milk into this guy. It was a really cold night. So here is my kind of first level of intervention that we have found is helpful. So I will milk mama just into a little cup, and I like this size. This is a 3 ml syringe because it is not too big, and it's just big enough that I can put it into the side of their mouth. And you want to, once it is drawn back with the milk, you want to just push it really, really slowly. And I will start by just pushing a little bit into the side of their mouth and then waiting to see if their little mouth starts to move, that they are drinking it and sucking it. You don't want to just stick it in there and push the whole thing in. But I will just push it little bit at a time and make sure that they're starting to suck. Another thing that you can do, and I did this with this little boy, is put my finger in his mouth and then put the syringe next to it. And I let him start sucking on the sucking on my finger, and then I was able to just slowly start to push a little bit of milk, and he started drinking it. So one of these is a really great thing to have in your kit. Next is to have a couple bottle options just in case. So we love these nipples. You can usually get them at a farm store or even order them online at like a vet supply website. And these are great because they actually screw right onto a soda bottle, like a 20-ounce soda bottle. So these are perfect if you do have to intervene and feed the baby more, or if mom is not accepting baby and you're actually having to intervene and deal with a bottle baby. I also keep just a regular bottle on hand. Depending on their preferences, there are times that I have used this. And then the last thing that you want to have on hand, and this is the direction that you hope you don't have to go, but again, if you've had a baby that has gone a while without nursing and their sucking reflex is not working and you can't get them to drink from the syringe or the bottle in any way, then having one of these tubes on hand in case you have to tube the baby is also important. And this goes right down into their stomach. It is not my favorite thing to do, but I have had to do it a couple times, and it's just something good to keep on hand just in case you have to go that far. But we definitely try, first of all, to just get them to nurse on their own. Secondly, we'll try that syringe just to get a little bit of milk into them and then put them right back on mama. And then thirdly, we'll try the bottle, and then the tubing is if we truly just have to get milk into them quickly, if it's more of an emergency situation, or if they're just not sucking on the nipple in any way. So those are some ideas to make sure that you have on hand in case you have to intervene with feeding. So the last couple things that I want to share with you are some things to have on hand in case you need to be helping mama out a little bit. So I have those things right here. So first of all, molasses is a great thing to either keep a bottle or a container of, because this is a great source for moms for energy after they have lost some blood. So some of our girls love to just take a teaspoon. They will lick it right up. I also will put a teaspoon or two right in their small bucket of warm water and give it to them to drink right after. So it's just great to give them a boost and to help with that blood loss. Also, NUTRI-DRENCH is something that we love to keep on hand. This can be used for moms or for newborns. The dosing is on the side. So again, if they're needing a little boost, if they're struggling a little bit, it has some of those nutrients that will really help to just give them a little jump start. So dosing is explained right on the bottle, a great thing to have. You can pick that up at your farm store usually also. And then a couple natural options that we keep in our birth kit, and you can read a little bit more about this on the printable and the exact recipe, but I have a postpartum healing spray that I just make in a little glass spray bottle that I will use for the moms, and I will spray their back ends. It just helps to kind of soothe, heal, and cleanse a little bit. It has lavender, frankincense, and heliochrysum in it, some essential oils that are great for supporting them and promoting healing. I also keep a roller of lavender oil. A lot of moms in labor, if they are just a little anxious or struggling, love this. And I will put it right on their spine or even put a little bit in my hand and they will lick it off. So a couple great options just to have in your birth kit for them. And then lastly, something in case you need to have any kind of assistance or help them internally or help to reposition baby or even just assist a little bit. So we like to use fractionated coconut oil. You can put this right on your gloves and it just helps to coat things and make it easier if you need to assist in any way. Along those same lines is a great resource. This is a chart and I will put the information below, but it shows some great options if you do have to intervene, depending on the positioning of the baby, knowing what to do, what to look for. It's really, really helpful. So you can see the information about this below also. Well, I hope that this has been a helpful resource for you guys. We are definitely still learning, and there are other things that over time we have decided to keep on hand, but this is definitely a great place to start. So if you are new to having little babies, a lot of this applies for lambs also, but in particular for goats, this is a great bit of resources that you can just have on hand. Not a lot of expense. Some of it is stuff you're gonna have right around the house that you can just grab. You'll see I have my little birth tote that I like to keep everything in. That way it's all collected. I recommend doing that because I did not always have it all together, and it's definitely frustrating to have to in the moment go gather everything. So keep it in a tote or a container, have it ready to go, and it really does help to have some of those basic things on hand. So if you guys have any questions, I hope you will reach out to us. We want to try to share as we are learning on this journey, and we would love to answer any questions that you have. Again, make sure you check out the resources that we have listed below. Hopefully this will help you to know where to start, and we would love to further help you with any questions that you may have as you start this process. But I hope it is a great learning resource for you, and I hope that you enjoy having these little babies around your home or your farm, because it truly is such a special thing. So thanks again for joining us, and please subscribe below. We're going to try to do more videos about goats and different parts of their care. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed this, and we can't wait to share more with you.